Welcome to the Pros Corner podcast, where you get to know a local pro on the go. Brought to you by the Salt Lake Real Estate Investors Association, providing tips and tricks so you can take your investing to new levels. Here's your host, Eric Patterson.
Hello and welcome. Our guest today is Mr. Tony Hellman. Tony is a full-time realtor at Keller Williams and bought his first property in 1993. He's also done over 20 personal deals and twice sheltered over $100,000 of capital gain through the principal residence exclusion. During the crash, he and a partner put 7 houses under contract close to the University of Utah for $700. His favorite tool is using seller financing to help a seller save their credit and equity while buying the property, creating a true win-win. Tony has an MBA from the University of Utah and once served for 6 years as one of Robert Kiyosaki's real estate investment coaches. He's done 7 deals while involved with Slaria, and currently he and his wife hold 4 properties and are looking to acquire 2 more in 2017. Without further ado, let's jump right into the interview. I hope you enjoy it. So talk to me a little bit about how long you've been a member of Slaria.
I've been a member of Slaria for probably close to 15 years, starting back in probably 1993 for a few years, then kind of dropped out. Got busy with some other business, but always kept investing, came back in, and really have been constantly there for the last 5 years because I make money at the club.
Okay, excellent. So were you a full-time investor the moment you jumped in, or were you like most people where it took you some time to get started and you were thinking about it for a while before you actually got up the gumption to take action?
I thought pretty knowledgeable, but definitely not a full-time investor when I started. And as I continue, what I find is that you learn things differently from investors than you do in the real estate sales game. It's kind of 2 different worlds. And here at the Slaria, we teach you how to make a lot of money. Sometimes in the just the real estate game, which I do full time, It's more about getting somebody their home, and it may not necessarily be a financially great deal compared to what an investor would think. Sure.
Okay. And were you before you were a full-time investor, what was life like for you before then? What did you do for a living?
Well, I took a 6-year stint fishing up in Alaska. I fished
that's tough.
On the commercial boats, and then I would come down and ski in the winters and travel to Mexico and then go back up for another 6 months.
Oh, my
when
goodness.
The fishing was good. And then after the oil spill, that all kind of dried up. And so then I went back to school, got my MBA, worked in the corporate world, but I also continued to buy and sell houses during that time frame.
Okay. And you found your way to Slaria. And so what is it about Slaria that has that you feel are the most valuable attributes that have helped you be successful?
I think the truth in the advertising that, number 1, anyone can do this. Number 2, that you need advice. And number 3 is that don't plan on your retirement being in the corporate world. Develop your assets because it takes a lot of money to live anymore.
Sure. Excellent. Well, thank you for that insight there. Did you have an especially rough path trying to get through the last Great Recession?
I counted that I lost over $500,000.
Wow.
I had my credit slashed. Had to really pick myself back up after that and learned, and I think a lot of investors can say it, that real estate is up and down cycle, and you better make sure that your credit lines and your plan B is in place, because you can really get in a world of hurt if you're over leveraged.
Sure.
One tip I would like to suggest to everyone is, if you're using hard money, make sure you know how you're going to get out of it if things don't go to plan. I got caught in that, and while I was able to use other people's advice and skills, it can be a really, really scary place if your hard money note is due in less than a month and you know that your long-term financing has just dried up.
Wow, very, very good advice. I can actually relate to that. I was in a situation very similar. Had a not a hard money loan, but a loan from a bank that had extended it to me, and I was approved and everything. But when the economy collapsed, they wanted that loan. They called the loan due, which was just unheard of. But they needed the bad debt off their books, and so when banks are backed in the corner, they're going to act in their best interests. And so I was kind of I was a result of that, unfortunate result. So no, I hear you loud and clear. I hear you loud and clear there. So what words of advice or encouragement would you give our membership if they're kind of stuck in this place of fear or analysis paralysis?
Somebody referred me to a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and that was one of the best books I ever read, because I always thought you had to be this Superman, courageous, and you just, once you figured it out, you were always able to, I don't know, just know what to do and do it.
Mm-hmm.
What I found, though, is that the successful ones absolutely have that same fear, and what they do is they take action anyway.
In spite of it, yeah.
So they don't let the fear stop them. They go through it, round it, or whatever. But the fear is there, whether it's your first deal, $100,000 deal, or bigger deals.
Sounds like that advice has definitely served you. And so what you're saying is, even though you've been in the game, in this business for well over 20 years, you still have fear when you go into certain deals or when you go into certain transactions. Is that the case? And so basically you just go right through it.
And you get other people to guide you through it.
There you
Probably
go.
the biggest fear I ever had, besides going through my divorce, was when I got a lawsuit against me for close to $1 million.
Yikes.
That's scary stuff. So get good advice. I was actually able to walk away with only about $2,000 out of my pocket with that, but it was one scary time.
I can imagine. Thanks for sharing that. I can't let you go, Tony, without you sharing your experience. Very unique experience indeed. Before our phone call, before our interview, you would share with me that you used to be a coach for 6 years for Robert Kiyosaki. And I about fell out of my chair because Robert Kiyosaki is the one who essentially changed my life with his book. And so the fact that I'm talking to a guy who used to coach for this guy, talk to me about that experience and what your thoughts are on just coaching programs in general and the value that it has in a potential client's life.
Okay. I coached people all across the nation, anywhere from doing their first deal to multi-millionaires in New York that one actually owned a skyscraper. The crazy thing about it is that I was able to actually go down and train with Robert and Kim, and certainly being part of it, I got a discount, but we had to pay for it. So I paid literally tens of thousands of dollars to this, and only a few other coaches would actually do it. So when Matt says, make sure that who you're getting advice from is an investor, Robert would also say that. You know, you think differently. But what you noticed was how intense and how raw Robert could get. But the reality is he always comes back to like four main things, and it's not the deal. Do you have the right people? Then do you have the right financing? And then do you have the right game plan for you, something that you're excited about? And then look at the product or the deal, because a good or even a great deal comes around every 90 days if you're looking.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have those other three things, the financing, the management, or the partners, you're going to fail anyway, because somehow those things are going to mess you up.
Sure.
So whether it's single-family homes, multi-units, syndication, get the training. And what I'd also like to say is get the training on the cheap. You don't need to spend $10 or $20 or $30,000 like a lot of these people did.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it usually hurt them. But if you go to Scleria, you can talk to these people that have kind of where you're at or a little above, and they're more than willing to share the advice. And you'll have a lot more capital for investing, and I think you'll be a lot better off than investing in those coaching programs.
Wise words, folks. Wise words. I pulled a couple of good nuggets out of there for myself. One being that is you have to invest in yourself, and you don't have to necessarily, purchase or invest, gobs of money. Also, surrounding yourself with the right folks, with the right team, is also imperative as well. So, thank you for sharing that advice there. Again, coming from a guy who's actually coached with Robert Kiyosaki, I actually had a chance to meet the guy. I don't know if you're familiar with the real estate guys. They do a cruise once a year, real estate summit cruise. And 2012, I was on board because Robert Kiyosaki was there. And so I figured what better way than to meet my mentor than to corner him at the buffet line. So captive audience there. So didn't exactly happen like that. I did have a chance to meet him and talk with him one-on-one, and very intimidating guy. Very, like you said, he's passionate about the philosophy, right? That's in his books, and he's an avid learner, avid reader, and former Marine as well. So, and all of that, every bit of that comes out when he's on stage. So, anyway, I'm sure you can attest. Yeah, I'm sure you can attest. So, excellent. Well, Tony, we've reached the end of our session here today. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and expertise. For those who are wanting to hear more, Tony will be at the Pros Corner in September, second Wednesday in September, to speak about various aspects of seller financing. Tony, any last words before we sign off?
Well, first, thank you, and then get advice from those that are more knowledgeable for you. You'll make more money.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you, sir. I'm going to sign off. This is Eric Patterson. I've been talking with Tony Hellman, and this is the Pros Corner. Thanks for listening.